Welcome. So glad that people could come out last minute. I appreciate that very much. So do our guest speakers. So it was very awesome just to be able to have this, to be connected. I don't know why it's cutting out, but we actually had the opportunity to have dinner with Noam and Adi and their children before we came here, and just really blessed by them and their heart for, not just for Israel and Jews, but for Christians too, to understand that we all share a part in the land. So they're just beautiful people, and I hope we have an opportunity to get to know them a little better tonight. We're going to just start out with the Shema, so if you'd like to stand and sing that with us, please. I'm going to have Yvette lead us, our worship leader, and then we'll say it. Way out of the Yahweh God, Baruch Shem Kevo, Maluto, Leolam Vayed. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Blessed be his glorious name. His kingdom is forever and forevermore. Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Well, you could stand if you want, because I'm going to introduce Adi Bedein right now. Please come on up. Thank you.
Shalom, everyone. Me and my family here, we are on our 10th month of journey that we started. We felt, because there's a war in Israel, the best thing that we can do, contribute, is just to go and speak everywhere we can. So 10 months ago, we left to Alaska. We went down to Yukon, all the way to Seattle. We've been also to Central America. And just before Colorado, we've been to the Dominican Republic. And the interesting thing is, coming all the way from Dominican Republic straight to beautiful, beautiful Colorado, it's my first time here, is a very sad event that happened a couple of days ago in Boulder. One of the people who was injured was Barbara Steinmetz. She's an 88-year-old Holocaust survivor. And the way she survived was something that we just learned before we came here. When we were in the Dominican Republic, we learned that one of the only countries that gave visas during the Holocaust to Jewish people to come was the Dominican Republic. Coming to the shores of Susoa, we've been there, we saw the memorials. There's a huge Star of David there next to a gorgeous, turquoise beach. And that's how she and her family was saved. And then she came eventually to Colorado. So we feel like we've been going along her journey too, and hopefully we want to visit her. And we can only pray that everybody will be fine. So we're here to give you a little bit of glimpse into our lives. So I'll tell you about my sister. My sister is 10 years older than me, but we're best friends. Of course, only when I was 16 we started to have something in common. But ever since, we're best friends. And the thing is this, we always used to have this argument, and I didn't like it. I used to tell her that I don't want to speak about it, because it just became annoying. But she kept saying, Adi, you should come live next to me. And you're crazy. She would tell me, you're crazy because you live in the Judea. We just, before we left to Alaska, we were living in the Judea just in front of King Herod's palace in Tekoa. Why? Because, it's the Judea. And I used to tell her she has to come next to me, and she's the one crazy because she lives under a rocket fire. Now, unfortunately, I won the argument, because my sister lives 7 kilometers away from the Gaza border. And in October 2023, October 7th, thousands of terrorists penetrated into Israel and did the most horrifying massacres. I see there's also a few children in the crowd, so I have to censor to watch my words, but the most awful atrocities happened. And what you see here is actually the gates of my sister's community, just 180 families, terrorists, Hamas terrorists at the gate. 6:30 in the morning, what happened? My sister was walking her dogs very far from her house, around with all the fields around. And there wasn't even a siren. Usually there's a siren in Israel if there's rockets and then there's interception. She's really far from her house and she sees tons of missiles fired towards her. And she starts running like crazy to the nearby house. Thank God she succeeds to get to her neighbor's house. And then she just goes from house to house, eventually to her house. And what you see here is a miracle because they could have climbed over the gate, they could have blown it up just like they did in the kibbutz where Noam's brother lived. I have a brother-in-law who had battles just outside his window and he survived. Again, another miracle. But they just passed. They were here, you see a picture, they just continued on their road, and that's a great miracle. And if you would be able to look a bit to your left, which you can't because that's the picture that was taken, you would see what used to be the first house in Tekuma. It's called Tekuma, which means rise from the ashes. My grandparents, Holocaust survivors from Transylvania, they passed away a long time ago. So I'm kind of thankful that they weren't there when something so awful just happened. But they established that place, Tekuma. And ever since that day, we've been fighting. Miracles happened to us and we've been fighting. So my sister's family has been fighting too. This is shy, which by the way in Hebrew it means a gift. It doesn't mean to be shy. And you know, on that day, when all these horrible things happened to us and all the communities around the Gaza border, there wasn't an army. There wasn't not functioning, and there wasn't a government. We have now all these investigations and reports, and even if you read it, what really happened there? How could this happen? The only unit in the army that was functioning was the Navy. Another miracle happened in our family. My niece Shai was serving in the Navy on that day, and that as opposed to other soldiers, women soldiers, combat soldiers, who were serving on units where they were kidnapped or worse, just murdered, she fought. Video, footage that was released to the media is what happened on that day. She was fighting from a boat, saving Israel, saving the citizens of the city of Ashkelon from a massacre. So you'll see one second, she's driving this specific boat. Could you imagine? Our soldiers are 18, 19-year-olds. And this is them. They're shooting. If you look at it long enough, you would see heads popping up from the sea. So many came. So many tried to get into Israel. Some, by the way, succeeded to get to the shore. She was fighting there. She's our hero. Her older brother, Ori, at that time, he was training soldiers, including, by the way, my brother-in-law, his father, who only this Friday released from the army. He's 52 years old. You don't have to serve after you're 50, but since October 7 until this Friday, my brother-in-law was wearing uniform. He was serving, and my nephew, Ori, he was training him. Now, eventually, Ori begged the army to send him into Gaza. This is something about Israeli society. It doesn't have to make sense, but everybody wants to contribute, to take part, to go to dangerous places, including, by the way, on October 7th. They saved this country. People that nobody called. There was just a huge traffic jam on the way to Gaza border because of individuals who wanted to save the country. So Ori, my nephew, wanted to go. Eventually, he succeeded. He got into Russia. On the second day, this video was edited by Hamas. You hear Hamas? This is Ori, my nephew, marked in red by a Hamas sniper. A bit of shrapnel, some burns. He had a ceramic vest that protected him. Not even admitted to the hospital. Another miracle happened in our family. Thank you to God. Now my sister had 3 combat kids. There are 3 combat soldiers. 2 of them are girls. So you heard about Shai. This is Omer, and she excelled in the artillery. This is a beret of her commander, because she excelled in the artillery unit. She fought in Syria, and now she's fighting in Gaza. So we're very proud of her. And these are my heroes. Now, if we go back to October 7th, this was taken on October 8th. So you can see the destruction. We know about so much destruction. People were murdered, atrocities that were done to them, but also the property. And we can just see it from looking at the roads. Looks like apocalypse. You know what that means, apocalypse in Greek? It means revelation. It was revealed to us what it's like being without a Jewish state for a few hours, for a few days, for maybe a few days. Depends who you are on that time. Now, all these vehicles that were burned or damaged because of missiles, because of terrorists, very quickly, already on October 8th, there was a decision to start and collect them, and then eventually just give it back to the owner or compensate them if they don't want the vehicle. So they put everything at the burned vehicles compound. Now I come from the field of Holocaust remembrance, but after the war, I visited the burned vehicles compound where they gathered all the cars, and that's when I decided I have to be a tour guide there. I have to tell that story. So I became a tour guide there, and I created this 360 tour. If you're techie, you know, you can scan this QR, and then you get a 360 tour. I just want to recommend, get into the app of YouTube once you go in, and later, or if you have time now, improve the quality, okay? But what you'll see is this. If you look at your phone to the right, you'll see what's on the right. If you put your phone on the left, you'll see what's on your left. But this kind of shows you. You have here burned vehicles, 280 burned vehicles, and in total, there are 1,470 cars there, all gathered from all across this region. And it's a very complicated operation to do this, to start handling them and give it back or compensate the owner. Why? Because when they came, look at the conditions. Some had ammunition in them, so they needed special units from the police and the army. And in many of them, people were murdered. So you needed special people, like, if you know our organization Zaka, that know how to deal with dead people. Because in Judaism, we have to bury everything. Everything. It's holy. So we even had archaeologists working on these cars. By the way, they gathered 200 bags of 60 liters, which they buried in Rishon LeZion, just from these cars. So how do you even grasp, how can you even think about it? You know, 1,470, all the people, all the stories. I just told you 200 bags. How can you even grasp that? I say, somebody who comes from the field of Holocaust remembrance, we know how to do it. We have dealt with a very, very big tragedy in our people's history. So let's learn from it. So, for instance, one of the things we learned in Holocaust education, in the beginning, when they just started to teach about the Holocaust, they used to talk only about the millions. They used to show piles of, you know, I don't want to say it, okay? I'm looking at the crowd. And now we know that we have to do it in a different way. We need to restore their faces and talk about the individuals. So let's talk about one car. What does that look like to you? like a food van, emergency van. Okay, so what happened? Where was this vehicle, first of all? It was in the Nova site. I don't know if you've heard, but what happened was, so 6:30 in the morning, there were rockets that fired, and it was also fired to an area. There was a very, very big party. Thousands of young people attended this party for love and peace, and all these rockets. So very quickly, they turn off the music, they get into the cars, and then there's this huge traffic jam. So what are they going to do? And then quickly, they hear also gunshots. They hear the terrorists coming. So some get away with their cars, some succeed, some do not. You've seen their cars on the roads. Some get out of the car and they start to run. And if they're injured, they're looking for a place that can treat them. The only ambulance that was in the Nova site was this one. This was an ambulance. Who could have guessed? It's because of the way it looks. What happened was 9:30 in the morning, so that happened 6:30, right? 9:30 in the morning, the terrorists shot an RPG on it, immediately killing everyone inside and everything burned. It takes a really long time to identify the victims. So if you've seen the news, at least the Israeli news, never watch any news about Israel that's not Israeli. If you watch the news, seeing all the people looking for the loved ones, were they taken hostage? Maybe they're still hiding. Many were hiding for hours, and they were found. And maybe they're dead, but then where are they? Because when this is how they are murdered, there's nothing left. So where are they? So for instance, this is Shani Gabay. She calls her father in the morning and she tells him that she got shot in her leg. There's actually a picture of her with her, it doesn't look too graphic, that you can see she's injured in her leg and she's waiting for help. And her father says, "I'm coming right away." And this young man, Israeli man, grabs her phone and says, "Don't you dare come here. If whoever comes in doesn't leave this place alive." So of course I'm going to come. And he tells him, "Listen, I promise you, I will not leave Shani." Okay, that's her name. I will never leave her. I promise you. Of course he comes. And he comes at around 9 o'clock. And you have to understand, it started at 6. It ended a few days later. Okay? Terrorists were still wandering around for a few days. And the atrocities, like the most horrific ones, were until the evening. So he's coming at 9 in the morning. Everything is still happening. He saved 22 people while looking for Shani. Where's Shani? He cannot find her. He doesn't know that just a half an hour later, the ambulance started to burn. 47 days it takes for them to learn that through this necklace that was found with the DNA of 2 victims, one of them was the victim of this ambulance. So they opened her grave, which is something, by the way, we don't do. We don't open graves unless you really, really, really have to, because we believe in the holiness of dead. So they opened a grave of this woman who was the victim of the ambulance, and they found that they accidentally buried Shani with her. Not going to explain how, but this is what happens, but this is how they're murdered. And she was reburied. Did you ever have to use that word? Did you ever hear that word? Rebury. They had to rebury Shani 47 days after October 7. 270 days. That's how long it takes to get the whole story of this ambulance, because there are 18 victims who are identified of this, just in this ambulance. Okay, so 270 days after October 7th, they find out that Eliakim Liebman was not taken into Gaza. They thought, why? Because everybody saw him coming back and forth, bringing injured people to the ambulance. He saved dozens of people. And then he just vanished. So they figured he must have been taken into Gaza, but they never really got an approval for that, a sign of life. And then 270 days later, they open another grave of Victoria Gorelov, another victim of the ambulance, who was murdered there with her boyfriend. And they realized they accidentally buried Eliakim with her. And so 270 days after thinking all this time that their son is a hostage, and now they know that he's actually all this time he's been dead, and they don't even know what's worse, really, because we know now also the conditions in captivity there, especially for the men, for the young men. And so 270 days later, they realized he was actually dead already. But also, 270 days later, there's another person who discovers something. It was the father of Shani who discovers that young man who grabbed that phone and told him, I promise you, I will never leave Shani. He never did. And this is why he was murdered in the ambulance. He never left Shani. That was Yelakim Livman. Another really big hero was Ben Binyamin Shimon. All he had was this car, Cupra. Now, I was like a most typical girl guiding at the burned vehicles compound because I don't know much about cars. So I used to go the black car, the red car, look at the white car. But this one I know. It's a Cupra because they say it's a very powerful car. And that's all he had. He didn't have a gun, nothing. And once he was in the party, and once everything got crazy, he put four friends in the car and drove like crazy. I'm not exaggerating. The camera roads, they show 120 miles an hour, but calm. Don't worry, everything's going to be okay. Drives to his hometown, Beersheba, a city in the south. And then once he realized there's this woman on the street that can take them into a safe room, because rockets were fired towards all the regions in Israel during that time. We were in Tekoa during October 7, and we also had rockets fired towards Jerusalem. So once he realized his friends are safe, he said, okay, bye, I'm going. He went back. They were like, are you crazy? You don't even have a gun. And everybody's calling him up, his girlfriend, his family, his father called him. He said, listen, Ben, his name is Ben. Ben, listen, let's think about it for a second. Maybe you should wait for me. I'll get some guns and we'll go fight together, which, by the way, is not a very typical parental response, is it? Amazing. And he says, Dad, I don't have time. I have to go and save my friends. And he drives back. He succeeds to get there. He puts 8 people in the car that he doesn't even know. He drives them to the nearby town, Netivot, saves 8 more people. And then wants to go back again. But then he has to convince his friends to share their locations. He doesn't know where they are, right? I mean, everything is a chaos. So they wouldn't share their location, which, by the way, is an amazing fact, I think, because when you think about the people there, they were experiencing the most desperate need of help. They were experiencing the most horrific things you can even imagine, but they were thinking about him. No, don't come here. Don't risk your life for us. Eventually, he succeeded to convince his very good friend, Gaia Khalifa. He gets to her. He succeeds to find her. She gets in the car, Gaia, together with her friend, Romi Leshem Gonen, and another guy named Ophir. They get into the car, but then near a place called Alumim, there was an ambush of terrorists, and they shoot at the car. Immediately, Ben in the front, together with Gaia, who's still talking to her father, who hears her 2 last breath. We're talking about a girl, I'm in touch with her parents, who was a sunshine. She used to take her grandmother to everywhere, to the mall, used to get gifts to her, and she was just a sunshine to everyone she knew. Her father had to hear her last 2 breaths. Immediately, 2 of them were murdered. At the back, Romi and Ophir, they were injured in their arms, both of them. Romi was still talking to her father too, and she succeeded to tell him that she was injured, but then she, together with Ophir, were taken into Gaza. Ophir, we know today, that he died on the very same day from his wounds, but Romi was there for hundreds of days. But we have a happy ending. She was brought back. She was released from captivity. She still has a lot to do, to overcome. A lot of healing, also physically. You may pray for Romi Leshem Gonen. She has many injuries in her arm, and her legs are not so functioning. She's going through a lot of surgeries. Obviously, she was not really attended in Gaza. And so Ben saved 13 people. What a hero. And I think if there's one thing that he teaches us, is that there's nothing like the power of an individual. He's not a part of the army. He didn't even have a gun. just a really strong sense of responsibility. And there are hundreds of stories like this, I want to tell you. But you know what I'm trying to say is people like him saved our country. All these hundreds of people resisting this way, they saved our country because they could have easily get all the way to the center of Israel. It was a Sabbath, it was a holiday, they had maps going all the way to the center of Israel. He saved the country. And the thing is this, we always think that things are too big on us. I'm translating from Hebrew. Too big on us. It's the responsibility of the principal of the school. It's the president. No, it's the system, it's broken. No, and justifiably, because, okay, we live in democracy, so we have expectations. But really, what he and all these hundreds of heroes teach us is that change comes when an individual takes responsibility. Just goes and do whatever he thinks that needs to be done. It doesn't mean he's responsible. He doesn't mean that he's guilty, Okay? Responsibility is not guilt. It's just that's the way things change. And I think it's absolutely inspiring. Now, one important thing I want to say about Ben is that I met his father because he used to come twice a week to the burnt vehicles compound to tell the story. And one time he said that he never met those 8 people. Remember, he saved 4, and then he saved 8, and then Romy. And I said, how come he didn't meet those 8 people? That could have been amazing, meeting, the 8 people that your son saved. And he tells me why. Because 3 of them are in psychiatric hospitals, and the rest of them never left bed. See, people come to the burnt vehicles compound to learn about those who lost their lives. We need to there was a 40-year-old guy coming to the burnt vehicles compound. I said to him, do you want me to give you a tour? He says, yes. And he tells me, I came here spontaneously. He didn't organize anything. Because today I'm celebrating my 40th birthday, and I don't want to celebrate my life before I learn about the people who died for me. So we want to learn about the people who died, and we pray for the hostages. They are still there. We have still 58 people, men, hostage, in tunnels, in chains, starving, injured. One lost his eyesight, still there, alone, because all the rest of the people next to him were released or were murdered. And I say, but what about the ones who actually survived? And what about their families? And what about the families of those who survived, not just the families of the victims? And what about the soldiers? We have a very big challenge in Israel to heal this trauma. Experts say that even if you don't know anyone and you never experienced these events in Israel, if you're connected to it, and I think more than just Israelis and even Jewish people are connected, you have been through trauma. And I think it's so important to realize that there are all these people in our cycle. And now it's, every once in a while in Israel we hear about a case of also suicide, okay? People who just couldn't endure all their sights, everything they saw. We need to think about them too and really pray for them too. Now, ever since the beginning of the war, I kept hearing the word hero. He's a hero, she's a hero. Yes, I know, I also use that word because I spoke to you about my heroes. But I was trying to think about it because I come from Holocaust remembrance. I'm a tour guide in Yad Vashem, and I just thought about, because I have a lecture about Jewish resistance. And there I talk a lot about heroes, what it means to be a hero. See, at the beginning, after the Holocaust, after the establishment of Israel, when they taught about the Holocaust, or when they studied about the Holocaust and they studied Jewish resistance, the only thing that was considered as resistance was the physical resistance. So you can see a painting of the partisans, those fighting from the woods in World War II, or the members of the underground, okay? Only physical is resistance, which means there's only one type of heroism, okay? Only one type of hero. And I'm not saying they're not heroes, okay? But that's the way it was. Why was it? Because during that time, the ideal Israeli was the one fighting for the land, Okay, this is a draft to the army. And building the country was very physical. I mean, we were under existential threat. We're a country with many not so friendly neighbors. The one thing that amazes me in the States, I absolutely love it. I cannot explain to you, maybe because you even used to it, but I can drive a car and just cross to a different state. It's incredible. I can never do that in Israel. I think it's amazing. Anyway, so, under the existential threat, we need more soldiers. We need to fight. We need to be strong. And the Israeli society was very critical towards the Holocaust survivors. Where were you, like sheep going to the slaughter? Why didn't you fight back? They didn't understand. Even the Holocaust survivors didn't even know the whole story. And of course, today we know that it's very judgmental. We should not say like sheep going to the slaughter. It's one thing when his name was Abba Kovner in the Vilna ghetto. He wanted to motivate the people to uprise. It's one thing when he says it. When we say it, it's negative and judgmental. So many Holocaust survivors were ashamed to tell their story at the beginning of Israel. And it took time. When did that change? Oh, by the way, another thing. If you ask in Israel, you probably could imagine that Holocaust remembrance is something very critical in Israel, right? Something very important, you would guess. And we do have, every week we have something in the newspaper about something about the Holocaust. And of course, even the way we talk, the words we use, the way we think, talks a lot about Holocaust, a very big part of our identity. But if you ask people, what is January 27th, which is the International Remembrance Day, you ask an Israeli, what is January 27th? No clue. First of all, they only started to mention it in 2005, the international one. But Israel has a different date. See, January 27th is the liberation of Auschwitz, the symbol of victimhood. And in Israel, we don't want to remember our victims this way. We want to remember them as heroes. So Holocaust and Heroism Remembrance Day was chosen according to the date of the uprising of the Warsaw Ghetto. We're talking about dying Jewish people. Most of them were already sent to the death camps. They're starving, but they're organizing. They have undergrounds. And suddenly they ambushed the soldiers, the German soldiers coming, and it took the Germans a whole month to deal with that. We're talking about the Germans who went to fight the most powerful army, the Soviet Union. They couldn't handle this. It was a miracle, again. So this is how Israel wanted to remember them, as heroes. You'll see, it's a motive. I'll keep saying heroes again and again. I learned it's something very important in Israel. Okay, but that changed, okay, the way we see resistance. When did that change? First of all, we caught Eichmann. By the way, I met in Pueblo the daughter of the photographer. It was a secret operation of Israelis going to Argentina. They realized this is where Eichmann was, the leader, the Nazi leader, and they caught him. And her father, that lives in Pueblo, he passed away, obviously, but she lives in Pueblo. He was the photographer, the Mossad photographer, taking a picture of Eichmann, making sure that that's the person. How cool is that? Anyway, he was caught, brought to Israel for a trial. Everybody listened to the radio. There were no many, I don't even think there was that many TVs. And everybody listened to the testimonies, learning about the story. Suddenly, Israeli society started to listen to the Holocaust survivors, and Holocaust survivors stopped being so ashamed of telling it. So they started to understand it more, and that's how resistance started to develop in our consciousness, the idea of it. The really important part where it's changed was the Yom Kippur War. This is Golda Meir, our prime minister. And this is in 1973. So just a few years before, 67, we had the 6-day war. In just 6 days, we liberated all of our holy sites. I mean, it's over 600 days now, this war, and we don't even see the end. 6 days to liberate all of our holy sites? It's unbelievable. So what happened was that after a few years came the Yom Kippur War. See, the Israelis became a bit vain. Oh, we're the most powerful nation on the earth. God is with us. Nothing can hurt us anymore. That's it. So when the intelligence had some information about what's going on, they didn't do anything about it, and then it hit us. And it was a really shock for the Israeli society. It was a trauma. And so 73 was the first time that Israeli society really felt like under existential threat, just like, of course, not really, like the Holocaust survivors. Kind of brought them together in that idea. And that's how it started to evolve. So now we know there are more types of resistances. Practicing Judaism and celebrating Passover, keeping Sabbath, praying. This is a form of resistance. Keeping your humanity, helping one another is a form of resistance, which means we have more types of heroes. Okay, so heroism has evolved. Now, see, now we understand there are more types of heroes, but we still want a definition. So what is a hero? So let's go to our book. It's called Pirkei Avot. It's a book of morality. And one of the things written there is, who is a hero? One who conquers his inclinations. So it's a decision that starts here and here, not so much here, okay? So what is that decision, though? It's a decision, what all these people are actually teaching us with these acts of resistances, confronting the most extreme evil, and I'm talking both about the Holocaust and October 7th. What it teaches us, when you do these things, confronting the most extreme evil, is that they still believed in life. They still believe in humanity. They still believe that we have the image of God. We carry it with us. And that's a great thing. So what does it mean to believe in life? It means to do something, to be active. Okay? So it means I'm not a victim. It means we have our days. Let's talk about simple life. Thank God most of us are not living dramatic lives. Even in Israel, by the way, you'll be surprised. Most of them are not thinking about big things, the Holocaust, all the time. We're thinking about our terrible day at work. And then we're saying, why is this always happening to me? Who did not say it here, right? What have I done here? I'm being a victim. It's always happening to me. It's always going to happen to me. I'm being a victim. What they're teaching us, believe in life. Do something about it. Change the question. Say, what can I do about it? All right? So this is what they're teaching us. So, okay. We have now I still had the question, right? Why were we using this word all the time? I told you all the time, heroes. Everybody's a hero now. And I was just thinking about Holocaust remembrance and how we have evolved. And there are many types of heroes. And I was just wondering, what type of heroes are we talking now about Israel? Is it the physical? Is it everything? So I want to show you a very popular song in Israel. You'll see the subtitles. If you can get it, I'll talk about it afterwards. But it's a very popular, and it's called Superheroes. So just take a look.
אז המורה לתנ"ך בגבעתי, המורה ללשון מודיעין, השכן מלמעלה קבלן עבודות, אבל חודש כבר במילואים. עורכת הדין היא קמב"צית, עושה משמרות באוגדה. אחיה איש הייטק בכיר, עכשיו הוא צלף על גגות ברצועה. מנהל את הסניף הקשוחה של הבנק, היא סמג"ד ביהודה ושומרון. דורון הוא בעל חנות צעצועים, עכשיו הוא מ"פ בשריון. והמדי שלנו כפרה, שלרוב מזמר בקיסריה. הוא לוחם הנדסה, מתאושש בגבורה, אחרי שנפצע בלב עזה. נכון כולם נראים רגילים, אבל אנחנו עם של גיבורי על. בכל אחד תמיד מסתתר חייל, מוכן להציל את העולם.
Okay, so if we're going back to so first of all, for those who didn't get the subtitles, the song pretty much says that you can be a very regular person in Israel, but everybody is a hero because everybody is serving in the army. You can be, he says, the bank manager is a commander in the north. And the guy who has a toy store, he's a sergeant. okay, something like that. So everybody's serving in the army in Israel, and that's where we are a nation of superheroes. This is what he says. But if we go back to my question, okay, so that means we're going back to the physical resistance. Now, you have to understand, I have friends whose husbands are, just like my brother-in-law, for hundreds of days they're in the army. They're just so tired. They're worn out. We need more soldiers. So, it's something, we need them. We can't be without our soldiers. We saw what happened without soldiers. But then, haven't we evolved with our sense of, commemoration? Don't we see heroes now in a different way? Does it have to be only physical? So I got an answer. Every year we have a ceremony, a national ceremony, and on Independence Day, where 12 people get to light 12 torches, okay, like the 12 tribes. It's a great honor. Only the most amazing people in Israel get to do it. So what was the theme, not this year, the year before, after the war? I'll give you a hint. It has the word hero. Israeli heroism. Okay, it's funny already, right? A bit. But really, it's something I'm learning. It's something so important. But then who are the heroes of Israel during that ceremony? Who got to light a torch? So we had people who actually saved lives, like with guns. And we had people from medic units. And we also had the mamas, I'm translating, hamamot, okay, who cooked meals for soldiers for months. They are an Israeli hero. So I got my answer. Thank God we have evolved with our sense of commemoration, and we learned something from Holocaust remembrance, and there are more types of resistances and more types of heroes, and we acknowledge them. Also this year, by the way, many people who did things that are not necessarily physically saving someone, it's been acknowledged. Okay, so what are they teaching us? They're teaching us, again, that to be a hero, you don't need to be all muscles. This is Shlomo Ron. He was over 80 years old when terrorists were about to enter his home in kibbutz Nachal Oz. All of his family just entered the safe room, but he had a hobby in theater. He said, I'm going to act like I'm an old, lonely man. I mean, what family will let their grandpa just stay in the living room alone, right? He would be in the safe room. So he sat there, acting, doing his last scene, and a terrorist entered the home, shot him, and left. He saved his family. You don't need to be all muscles to be a hero. You just need to do something about it. Over 80 years old, he could have felt like a victim. What is he going to do? Many people felt like victims, and it's not I'm not trying to be judgmental, okay? Nobody wants to be in their shoes. But I'm talking about our heroes today. And Shlomo Ron is another hero, and because he just did something about it. He believed in life, and he was just doing something about it. And really, it could be anything. Now this war has left long time ago, this war has left the borders of Israel, even before October 7th, because it's a spiritual war. It's a war for believers. It's also the war for Western civilization. It's the war, of course, for Jewish communities all around the world, and we've just seen it in Colorado. And it's heartbreaking. And so what are we going to do? And I want to share with you just a thought, like very not judgmental thought. Because I was saying to myself, if we would have been in Boulder during that day, of course we would have gone there to that rally. Of course, because that's what we've been doing everywhere we've been to. If in Pueblo, they had the first rally for Israel. We went. And now suddenly I said, I'm being honest with you, I said, that's it. Until this end of this journey that we're doing, I don't think we're going to go to a rally. But then I was saying to myself, but what? Now we're going to let them win? Now nobody says anything? Because you see, fear is a great enemy for the truth. I believe that most people know the truth. And there's so many lies, right? Most people know the truth, but most people are too scared to stand up for the truth. Now, I'm not judging. I don't know. Truthfully, I don't know. Next time if I'll hear about a rally, I will think about it twice. So I just feel the pain of, Jewish communities and people who know the truth and want to stand up, and they're scared. But I just want to say to myself, and also to you, is that they have a legacy they're leaving us. And we need to be inspired by them, Guiding at the burned vehicles compound. Burning at the burned vehicles compound. I guided also in Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Memorial in Israel. But that's like an event that happened a long time ago. So maybe it's easier to deal with. I don't know. But people were asking me, how can you do it? How can you stand for a full day here in front of these cars and look energetic? And I said, because these stories, they don't bring me down. These stories inspire me. When I read those about the people who were murdered and died while doing all, trying to defend Israel, trying to resist, in many ways, it doesn't have to be like that. It just inspires me, it gives me strength, and I just wish for you that everything you learn about our heroes, you'll just take with you, that we will all be able to take their strength with us and just carry it with us to everywhere we go, inspire us to do something about something. It doesn't have to be anti-Semitism even, although it is a really big war now in the States, but really inspire you for anything in your life that you're going through. Now, one more dilemma. So I talked about the hero thing. When I guided in the burned vehicles compound, people came to me and they said one day, listen, Adi, it's really nice that you're talking about Israeli resilience, to love life. But then if we're resilient, we're not going to remember. Why? Why did he say that? And I'll give you an example so you'll understand. In Israel, you can have one day a terror attack in a cafe, a stabbing, okay? After a few hours, maybe even after a few hours, people were already sitting in the cafe with their friends. Not because we don't care, it's because we love life so much. We just want to go back to it. We're good at that. But then how do you remember? If you're sitting in a cafe a day, hours, doesn't matter. After something like that happened, how can you remember? If you're drinking your coffee with enjoy your time with your friend. And that's a really good question to see. There's this tension between resilience and memory. So how do we keep them both? Because both are really, really important for the Jewish people and for Israelis. Memory is super important. Remembering the Sabbath, remembering Exodus. Every year we tell our children, remembering Jerusalem for thousands of years, remembering the Holocaust, and now remembering October 7th. Okay, but we also know we want to be resilient. So how do we do that? So I want to share with you how I got to, I think I found a little bit of answer. Maybe it will be your answer as well. So before we came on this journey, we started this journey, we had to sell most of our stuff. We kept like 40 boxes. That's all we have. We have 2 furniture and 40 boxes. This is what we're coming back to. And so we needed a place to stay. So we stayed with my sister, who lives in the Gaza envelope, remember? And so during that time, 2 weeks before we flew, I went all around the area, explored it endlessly. And I want to show you what I saw. So one thing I saw, in the Nova site, I talked to you about a formal memorial, the Burned Vehicles Compound, under the Ministry of Heritage, okay? But if you go to the Nova site where the party was, that was the name of the party, Nova, then you'll see endless of private initiatives for commemoration. So one of them was by a woman who really liked ceramics, and she said that the typical flower anemone, which is also what I'm wearing here, anemone, it looks like poppy seed. It's not poppy seed, it's anemone. It's a typical flower of the Western Negev, the Gaza envelope. People usually come every February from all over Israel to watch it bloom. It looks like carpets of red. And she was thinking about that flower. She said, I should make a memorial from it because of the flowers that we lost, or she also thought about the color, the red, the blood. And she just posted on Facebook, I need to get 40 ceramic anemone flowers. Who wants to do it? And she got thousands, okay, thousands. So what I went to do in one of these days is plant a ceramic anemone, and it's absolutely inspiring. So you have all these, so people just come and they just do it because there's no really authority on, in that area. So many initiatives. Another thing I want to show you is that that area, the Gaza envelope, you have many shelters. Why? Because of the rockets. Rockets have been fired there for over 20 years.
Wow.
But how do they look like now? So you see the holes, you see stickers with quotes of people who were murdered or fallen soldiers. All of Israel, you will see it. I even saw it in one of the airports, travel, I think in Guatemala or something. And then you see people writing all these messages to their loved ones, lighting candles, all these messages. People turn these shelters into a commemoration site, like spontaneous. And I was just blown away. I just told Noam was driving. I was like, I need you to stop. Every time we see a shelter, and every shelter, I saw something. It was incredible. Just the people of Israel, endlessly, they're commemorating. They're doing something about it, right? Now, another thing, maybe you've seen it in the news, that's also in the Nova site. There are these pictures of the people from the Nova, the young people who were murdered in the Nova. You see the flowers, by the way. This is a private initiative. You hear the Israeli tanks? I want to tell you, when I was there, every time I jumped. And I wasn't scared because we call it a good boom, okay? But it was really loud there because that's really close to the border. This is all the pictures of them. It's a collage of all the people, the hundreds of victims of the Nova, of that party. So you might have noticed it. Now, just a few hours before our flight, day before, I went to see Andrei. Andrei is the father of Sean Deutschvili, a great young man who loved music. They came from, the father is from Georgia, like in Europe, Georgia. Anyway, he told me, listen, let's meet today, because it's just 15 minutes away from my sister, so I went there. He said, today I'm finally supposed to meet this young man. Who is this young man? On October 7th, Andrei went to find his son, Sean. He didn't know what happened to him. And once he got to one of these places, he saw this young man holding his phone, who was not on, and shaking, trembling. He takes the phone from him, he charges it for him, he tells him, listen, you have to call your family, and tell them that you're okay. And somehow they get connected because that young man took his number somehow. They didn't really talk much, but they started to be connected. Suddenly, this young man started to send him all these messages, making a graffiti about his son, Sean. He didn't know Sean. He didn't know his son, Sean. But he just remembered his father with him, because what happened to this young man, he was just fleeing the party when he met Andrei, the father. Okay, he was fleeing, and Andrei was just looking for his son. Anyway, he really wanted this young man, who I'm keeping his identity, and it was actually a video in private, but he really wanted him to come to the Nova site. He thought it will do something good, because you know what Andrei does every Shabbat? He's not religious, but every Shabbat, I think it's mind-blowing. You see families in the Nova where the kids were murdered. They bring tables and food, and they sit and eat and talk. Until today. Don't you think I don't know what's the word other than mind-blowing? So he also wanted him to come, not necessarily on Shabbat, just to come to the Nova. He felt it's important. And he said, and every time they tried to schedule, on the last minute, he didn't show up. I waited with him. He didn't come, but I told him, Andrei, if he's coming, I want to see a video. It's amazing. He came. He came just after I left, and he showed me a video where they were hugging and crying. It was his first time visiting this place. I'm talking about over a year after October 7th. Remember those who never left bed? He came there, and then he went to the picture of Sean. And I saw the video, and I'm not sharing because I didn't get any permission, but he was holding the picture. He started to talk to Sean and just thanking him and asking him to keep them safe, keep people of Israel safe. He says, He says, I love you. Like he doesn't even know Sean. He said, I love you, and please keep us safe. And I know you're in a better place now, and this is what it's like, and this is what was supposed to happen. And really, really emotional video. But at that minute, I realized what's my answer for that tension. See, when I told you about those families coming there, they come there every Shabbat because it gives them strength. It gives the father of Sean, Andre, strength to go to these places. And he does endless of projects for the memory of his son. And he just knew in his heart, he doesn't know how to say it by words to explain it, but he just knew that getting this young man out of bed and starting to commemorate will heal him. See, this is it. We want to be resilient. We need memory resilience. If we want to be resilient, we have to remember. If we commemorate, we are stronger. And that's the answer. It's not tension, it's a relationship, you know? And this is why I'm so passionate about commemoration and in Israel. I really think it will bring us more healing. So I want to thank Pastor Wendy for inviting us, for you to come. Thank you for being our heroes, doing something about it, sitting here and commemorating. You know, Elie Wiesel was a Holocaust survivor, passed away, and he said that once you hear a witness, you become a witness. So thank you for bearing witness. Because even the state of Israel didn't decide officially how to commemorate. The Burned Vehicles Compound is a temporary site. So here are you are here, and you will carry it with you, and you commemorate. You're helping us commemorate. That means you're also helping us heal. So thank you for that. You're welcome to follow us. We called our journey Agents of Hope because of the words of Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs. He used to be the chief rabbi of the UK. He passed away a few years ago. But he said, and no offense if you're Greek, but he said the gift of Greeks to the world was tragedy, that we know well, and the gift of the Jewish people to the world is hope. That's the name of our national anthem. This is all about believing in life, doing something about it. So we felt like this is a message we want to carry this journey. This journey is not ending in 2 months. We're going back to Israel, but it's not ending because we're going to move to the city of Sderot, the closest city to the Gaza border, because we want to take part in this. So if you want to keep in touch, if you have an idea, anything you want to do, really, please contact us. We want to help you do this. We want to be in touch with you. We want to host you in Israel when you come. We want to speak in more congregations, by the way, so if you know more people in Colorado, and then we're going to be also in Alaska and in New York, please tell us. And and of course, any contribution. This is we call it a private emissary. Okay, so we call it a private emissary, so this is all independent. Like, nobody sent us. We sent ourselves. We're doing something about it, you know, that's all we can do. And so thank you so much, and I'm not going to steal any more of Noam's time, but if you have questions too.
Okay. Do we have any questions, Adi, at this time? Her husband, Noam, is also going to speak, but before he does, okay. So blessed by you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. We wanted to take up a love offering for them. They are, like she said, it just made me think of how we were in 2020 when we had the world sort of shut down, and there were many of us that just said it's time to do something. So I think that's what hit my heart, that you are a people of action. So I know the Lord is in this. So I'd like us, if you're so inclined, just to, we're going to have a couple ushers here that'll just pass a basket, and please, let's give them a love offering, and then we'll invite Noam up to speak. Thank you. Well, do we have any questions for Adi?
Okay. Would you stand with me for a moment? We're going to bless Yahweh for your offering and bless it back into I know personally, you can be told, you can learn it. I was talking to Pastor Wendy today about what Beit Lechem, where we're going, and about what the vision is, and the word honor keeps coming up, but also there's a time to be taught, there's a time to be reminded, and there's a time that sometimes you just get it. And man, you know what I'm talking about, is to hear the stories of families going on Shabbat and sitting, not knowing, going and driving through a place, your home, and not knowing, turning around in your sports car to go pick up strength, like, that's but God. So the reason it strikes you so hard, the reason it strikes me, is because this is our family. This is why we, who've all heard the trumpet call that are gathered in this place, this is why it hits us so deep. And these angels, these messengers that are carrying this message of their own forthcoming, have a message, and we're going to support them in that. So, Lord, we thank you for this family, Lord. We thank you for the message they have brought. We bless it back to them, Lord. I bless every family and every person that is sown into this ministry, that wherever this message goes, Lord, it rings deep. And we just thank you for it. In your mighty name, amen.
Oh, here we go. Okay, shalom once again, everyone. Wow, okay. I have a completely different story, different background I'll be sharing with you right now. But again, first of all, thank you so much, Pastor Wendy, for having us here in such a short notice, getting people together. It's a real blessing, really. It's wonderful being here. This is our first time in this part of Colorado. I only spoke twice on campuses down in Denver a couple years ago. Overall, my experience is speaking out around the world. I'll try summarizing up, I think, in half an hour or 40 minutes, my Israeli story. I mean, as you can hear my American accent, I can talk like this, making it very much like an Israeli. I was actually born and raised in Israel, and my parents came from the States over 50 years ago, so I grew up speaking English at home. And I've been dealing for the past 18 years speaking to the international community about my background, what I've been dealing with overall. And I could say that what you have here in the background, the environmental resilience, is not a scientific aspect, but more the spiritual aspect. Meaning when we have appreciation for creation, having appreciation for the land of Israel, the pure land of Israel, specifically coming from the lowest point on earth, and see how this reflects back to ourselves and back to what is happening in our region and globally, fighting this spiritual war, what's so-called, on the front lines, literally, is something which is very powerful to experience to people and show this people firsthand. And that's part of my background. As a photojournalist, I've been living on the Gaza border for many years, chasing rockets as a war photographer. You'll be seeing my live documentation. How is it living under rocket fire? Very intense kind of work I had. I did not choose that kind of work, but I was the only one then literally speaking English in this town, Sderot, that we're actually going back to, and literally speaking around the world, presenting this all the way to Capitol Hill, the UN, the EU, 200 college campuses, North America, campaigns in South Africa, Australia, literally around the world, speaking and presenting, feeling the obligation to express live miracles happening. And then I transformed from the human drama living on the Gaza border to the environmental drama, going to the Dead Sea, the lowest point on earth, and seeing the receding of the water level right now in the lowest recorded history. It's very dramatic what is happening in this part of the region, but seeing through the landscape what is actually happening and actually finding hope and resilience through the landscape of the land of Israel, we came to realize how we're literally showing prophecies of coming true these days. Prophecies that were given 2,500 years ago, literally becoming live today in the land of Israel, and seeing it visually. And even more exciting for me is getting everybody to be recognizing about it. What does it mean, everybody? You'll see how far we're able to reach with this aspect, and that's part of it. Creation in the land of Israel is a way for unity, as a way to get everybody involved with it. And as you just heard Adi's story, being realistic, looking to the future. One of the main causes today for our people is going through rehabilitation. Is trauma therapy. We've all been affected. And part of that vision is actually going back, just taking one step backwards and having appreciation to your backyard, to your back door, specifically in the Dead Sea, how this can actually repair, this can literally can actually heal you, and that healing aspect through the land can also eventually also heal the land, but also heal the people overall. So that's just an introduction to the whole story. And I'll show you this controversial map of Israel. I like to call it controversial, but in any case, this is Sderot, the closest town to the Gaza Strip. Okay, for 12 years I've been working and living in this part of the region. When we got married, me and Adi, we moved to Jerusalem over here, and then we moved out to the Judean desert, looking over right south of Jerusalem, looking over the northern part of the Dead Sea. And this is basically what I'll be presenting, and a little bit living on the Gaza border as part of my story. So I'll just start very briefly with my 1-minute video of what I've been doing in the Dead Sea, the first one to actually document and explore the Dead Sea solely by boat or kayak. Anybody hear about there's actually a boat on the Dead Sea? It's a one-of-a-kind experience. This is actually what we invested a lot to actually put on the Dead Sea 6 months before the war. So I'll just share my story, what I've been doing, and we'll just continue from that. I'm excited to invite you to join an exclusive virtual expedition of the Dead Sea. I'm Noam, a photojournalist and environmental activist. Okay, here we are, guys. We will be kayaking to this spectacular shore, accessed solely by boat or kayak, and experience life that emerges out of the Dead Sea's salty, rich mineral waters. For the past 4 years, I've been exploring and documenting the dramatic changes taking place in the Dead Sea due to the rapidly receding water levels. Come join me on a virtual excursion where we will kayak through the salt chimney forest. Wow, what a magical journey! You guys gotta check this out! I was a bit overexcited doing that video. This is actually during COVID period of time, so people were not able to travel to Israel or to the Dead Sea, and we thought to be doing virtual expeditions for people around the world, going to the most exciting spots that we actually were able to uncover. And in the story of the Dead Sea, okay, not only being the lowest point on Earth, we'll get to that point, the significance it has to the world and overall to the galactic world, galaxy. But overall, these are the maps, satellite maps showing every 20 years or so how the Dead Sea has been receding. A little hard to really grasp the changes, but ever since 1979, it's actually been 2 parts of the Dead Sea. It's amazing that even in Israel, people do not realize it's completely been disconnected, the southern part to the northern part. Who's actually been to the Dead Sea beforehand, if I could ask? Wow, okay. If I could ask, do you remember where you've been to the Dead Sea? What part of it? I would imagine right close to Metzada, maybe, in the southern parts. Well, it's interesting because the southern part, we see everything is divided up into pools of salt. It's completely artificial, by the way, today. It is the Dead Sea water being pumped from the north to the south. The pools of salt is between 6 to 20 feet deep, where the northern part of the Dead Sea is 1,200 feet deep. Nothing even to compare between both sides of the Dead Sea. And our entire focus is a part of the northern part of the Dead Sea. So the southern part, you have the industry, you have all the hotel districts over here. It's very nice, very easy, but this north part is almost inaccessible almost at all to the public today. And I'll show you why. And that's how dramatic it actually is. So up until we started this project, this was the imagery, a little hard to really grasp. The changes of the Dead Sea, seeing it from up close like never seen before, was a way to really shock the audience. We'll play this video. If you could press that, please. That video. If you can make the volume down, so I'll speak while I'm showing the video. This is just a 3-year time lapse. So you can see the first time I went on a boat, this is what I saw, this salt chimney coming out. This is 1 year after, okay? And that really, really grasps of the dramatic changes that's been occurring in the Dead Sea. I mean, the estimated number is around 600 Olympic pools are dried up every day in the Dead Sea. So this is right now the lowest in recorded history. It's super dramatic. I did not even know if my eldest son, when I started this project almost 9 years ago, I did not know if you'll have the Dead Sea as we know it today. So these are the dramatic changes happening. And you can see the water reaching the salt cave, and as time went by, the cave today is up to 8 feet high. So really getting this, just simple photography, just being there at the right time, the right place, exact same shot. This video itself was broadcast around to the world through news broadcasts, especially in Israel. It's a shocking, dramatic aspect of showing this receding of the water level. And what this has caused, if you can see the yellow and red over here, and you see all these different beach resorts, everything here has been closed off. Everything here you see over here, these are sinkholes where it's red and yellow. Sinkholes, you have fresh water underneath the Dead Sea, and once the water is receding of the Dead Sea, it melts sediment layers of the Dead Sea, creating like cavities that grow into holes. So you have like 7,000 of these sinkholes on the shores of the Dead Sea. 98% of the Dead Sea is closed off to the public. So the only way to explore this world wonder is solely by boat. And that's why this project was so unique, and seeing the Dead Sea coming alive was something which is very unique, and exposing this to the world was very exciting. Overall, all these beaches that you mentioned here are closed off completely today. So the only access to the northern Dead Sea, you had this small little beach hold over here called Kalia and Neve Midbar, these small little beach areas, and that's it. And basically the only way to access was solely by boat. This is the dramatic scenery of a sinkhole in the middle of a parking lot in one of the beach resorts. It looks like an Armageddon place, literally. Everything was destroyed. Looks like huge bombs just fell in this place. That's how dramatic it is. And what I would do, usually in college campuses, I'll get the students excited. I'll tell them to scan this, and then on their personal smartphone, they start having a virtual reality expedition where everywhere they move, they could actually experience. I chose the most dramatic scenery of the Dead Sea. You could press play on that again, please. And you could also move the mouse once you press play to be doing it. And this, again, using innovative technology is pretty cool. You could fast forward a bit if you want to the half of the video. Yeah, like that. Yeah, perfect. There we go. And you could just move with the mouse on the screen. You could do that. And you can press play at the same time. Yeah, press play and just move with the mouse a little bit. So you can really see how this dramatic scene. So I have like a whole half hour just showing through the most dramatic scenery of the Dead Sea. It literally looks like Armageddon over here, like I said. I can really visualize the whole Sodom and Gomorrah in this place. This place is closed off, of course, to people, but we're able to find our way to go in and to document this firsthand. And interesting, you go through all the places where you have these beautiful umbrellas. People used to go vacationing, completely deserted. It's a pretty shocking experience just walking through here. It's called Mineral Beach because all the minerals are excreted into this beach. But anyways, I start with the most dramatic scenery of the Dead Sea. But at the same time, it's a beautiful geological phenomena. So on one hand, these things are destroying the landscape, literally closing off roads, beach resorts. People have fled this area because they were not able to have any jobs anymore. But on the other hand, it's a beautiful thing to take photographs of. And that's the contrast, always finding the beauty in the disaster. It's a little hard to get your head around that. During summertime, you would have pink and purple sinkholes from the different minerals that are stayed in these sinkholes. These are yellow ones. You can see all the different colors of the sinkholes. It's a beautiful, like I said, geological phenomena. This is fresh water, yeah, coming underneath the Dead Sea, creating these sinkholes. Eventually, these sinkholes, where the Dead Sea actually was, the salinity goes down. You actually have vegetation going out from these sinkholes. And the most exciting thing I tell people, you actually have living microorganisms inside the Dead Sea itself. This is live microorganisms, live creatures in the Dead Sea. This is learned to the scientific world like 15 years ago. That is it. These are called salt chimneys. It's because I'll explain how this actually happens, but you can see the rings around over here. You have fresh water coming inside here, and then it goes out from here. That's why you have rings. That's why it's called a chimney. Interesting enough, look at this image. Look at the next image. Exact same chimneys a year later going out completely. But then we brought the whole scientific world to come document what is happening on the Dead Sea, but focusing on the life specifically, not on the dramatic aspect, but showing the life emerging out of the Dead Sea. So we brought National Geographic, talking about the life emerging. We brought CNN. This is a photographer that came from Afghanistan. I learned from them this whole concept of virtual reality, the next generation of entertainment or media reporting. And these are 6 GoPros put in this machinery. That's how they did very high quality virtual reality. I took them to the most strategic locations of the Dead Sea to expose to the world about the life of this water body. Interesting enough, I brought NASA to take samples in the Dead Sea. Look at this subject line. It says a NASA collaboration on Mars and the Dead Sea. You would ask, what does Mars have to do with the Dead Sea? Well, interesting enough that the last voyage of NASA to Mars was very similar to the Dead Sea's landscape. There are many frozen salt lakes in Mars. They came to the Dead Sea to take samples, one of the saltiest bodies on Earth, to prove you could actually find living microorganisms, and hoping the same thing will be happening also in Mars. So this aspect of, I'll be explaining as we go on, the significance this water body has to the region, to the world, and to the galaxy is something unbelievable. Being part of that was very exciting to take part of. And guess what? The first time I went to explore the Dead Sea on the boat, the first time, we go off to the shore that was just exposed a couple of weeks beforehand. We look into the sinkholes. I look into the sinkholes and I see these small fish. And I took that picture, which is not that aesthetic. I just took that picture because it was a bit weird. Out of nowhere, you have these small fish. And I exposed this photograph on the internet a couple months after. I was getting emails and phone calls from around the world saying this cannot be true. There's fish in the Dead Sea, all the way from the Vatican, by the way. We're saying this cannot be true. There's fish in the Dead Sea. It was interesting for us, growing up in Israel as a modern Orthodox Jew living in Israel, learning from our fellow Christians about our own prophecies that we have in our own Bible about how one day a fisherman, this is Ezekiel 47, one day a fisherman will be going to En-Gedi to be going fishing for fish in the Dead Sea. And I was just amazed from that. And I'll tell people, it's not fish in the Dead Sea, it's on the shores of the Dead Sea. But even inside the water, you have living microorganisms coming out. This is, you realize, without realizing, eventually we realized we are basically presenting and showing firsthand biblical prophecies coming true these days, all the way to that extent, which is very visual, and getting everybody excited about that. That's what drawn me to the story of the Dead Sea, is the unity you can really find from the high sources of the scientific world and the media world, all the way to the very conservative and religious world, all accepting what is happening to the landscape in Israel, taking you back 2,500 years back, all the way to that extent. Now, interesting enough, if you go on Google, if you write fish in the Dead Sea, I was literally number one. We almost caused a diplomatic crisis by getting too much focus on what was happening to the Dead Sea, which we did not even mean for that to be happening. And here we go. This is a short video just showing about the life emerging out of the Dead Sea, along with the biblical prophecies. You can turn up the volume. But things are happening here. Non-stop things happening. After 3 years, I could tell you, there's so much life coming out from the Dead Sea. These are actually sinkholes, what we're seeing over here. So on one hand, it's a devastating aspect of the land violently causing huge holes. On the other hand, again, this is the contrast of it, all the life coming out from these sinkholes.
It's a little oasis here.
We just heard birds. You have bird migration right over here. Look, all this vegetation.
Yeah, there's lush vegetation here. There's birds. We hear them chirping in the background. There's massive migration coming through here, Noam. And there has been sightings, including by yourself, of fish.
Yeah, correct. In this single specifically, actually, we saw some small fish. The fact you have vegetation just shows that salinity went down here, and you can actually have living creatures over here.
And you think of the book of Ezekiel, chapter 47, Noam, it talks about the salt sea becoming fresh, of fishermen working at the Dead Sea.
This is the life emerging out of the water, literally as we speak. Fresh water springs coming from the Hebron and Jerusalem mountains, underneath the ground, underneath the Dead Sea, creating these sleeve of the salts. The fresh water actually goes inside.
You get a chance to see this up close. This is amazing. What do you think of all this? Special.
This is exactly it. Experiencing prophecy coming true, being part of it, being involved with it is something so spiritually uplifting.
I think of the book of Zechariah that says, waters will flow from Jerusalem to the eastern sea. This is to the east of Jerusalem, the Dead Sea.
Okay, so that was the life in the Dead Sea. If I can see those hands again, who's been to the Dead Sea beforehand? Okay, now you let me know if you've ever seen anything like this before. This is a salt diamond that comes out from, where does it come out? It comes out from the sinkholes. The sinkholes, which is destroying the landscape, which is very devastating. If you dig a bit deeper, you can literally find these beautiful salt treasures coming out like this, as squares. I'll just pass this around. This is 100% salt. And seeing those treasures coming out from a devastating aspect, when I look at that as a photojournalist, and I show that to people, it gives you hope. And you understand what the resilience of the land of Israel actually is, coming from the lowest point on earth. And while you have this going around, I'll have my pictures in the background, just showing again the beauty and the magic of Israel's world wonder like never seen before. And by the way, when I go to schools and I have this salt diamond going around, I tell the kids, do not lick it. I cannot promise who licked it beforehand. And then you see the kids going like this, and they start licking it, being funny about that. But in any case, that's how unique this actually is. And you see these kind of treasures coming out from the land of Israel, which is destroying, along with what is happening all around us, gives us hope by just looking at the landscape and understanding this is part of prophecies coming true these days. And you see here in the background the beauty and the magic of this part of the land of Israel. Okay, the Dead Sea being the lowest point on earth, it actually means it has up to 8% more oxygen. Okay, it's not only it's easier to breathe in the Dead Sea, but what this means to the scientific world, to the therapeutic world. There are millions of people worldwide that can literally get healed physically and emotionally in the Dead Sea. They do not even know about that. Okay, and what's interesting is the fact it's actually called the Dead Sea. Actually, the Dead Sea is a name that the Romans gave the Salton Sea. We call it Yam HaMelach, which means the Salton Sea. So it became a political word that today we all use, but it provides nothing but life. Even though it's one of the saltiest bodies on earth, it's the only body on earth that contains up to 26 minerals. Half of these minerals are found only in the Dead Sea. Okay? The first spa in the prehistoric time was Queen Shiva, Cleopatra, taking mud baths in the Dead Sea. And up until today, people from around the world are getting healed in the Dead Sea, physically and emotionally. And that's why also in terms of the future, bringing the Israelis, the traumatized Israelis, to this place to get healed, along with conservation of the Dead Sea, is part of where things has to be leading overall. Interesting that these minerals are exported to developing countries, helping up them to grow up their crops. It's actually feeding millions of people around the world. So that's the Dead Sea, the significance. And of course, it needs fresh water. Okay, not salt water, but it needs fresh water. And salt water and fresh water is the most valuable asset of the entire region. Being the driest region in the world, the Middle East and North Africa, the plot of the Dead Sea became to be advocating for sustainable water for the entire region. So developing afterwards, not only developing ecotourism with the boats and awareness and all that, developing water diplomacy. With the Abraham Accords, are you familiar with the Abraham Accords? What happened during the first Trump's administration, and making peace for the first time, a genuine peace with the Gulf countries. And we had the way to be bridging along with having appreciation for water. Water has no boundaries, and through that building up relationship was an amazing part of being. I'll show you how far we're able to reach with this. But the Dead Sea became that plot, and actually being here in Colorado, a lot of resemblance in terms of the Colorado River. Each state is fighting for their own rights for the water itself, And not many people know that the first ecosystem that's damaged by not having enough water are the salton lakes and seas, all the way in California, actually. The Mono Lake, the Salton Sea. There's a lot of resemblance in terms of having appreciation for water. Water has been always a cause for war, but water is also a way for having a diplomacy and working here side by side in the Dead Sea. Because it's so unique and so visual, we have a way to really get that story out there. And having this for people to be using Save Our Water Treasures is something that everybody can relate to at the end of the day. So that's overall my Dead Sea story and experience. And where did I get this whole experience of trying to focus on the resilience and the hope from the catastrophe is by living on the Gaza border for many years, living under rocket fire. My personal experience moving to this town, Sderot, on the Gaza border, 1 mile away, was having 3 to 5 rocket attacks per day. That was my experience moving into this town, having more or less 15 seconds or less to run for your life. And I realized as time went by that the resilience of the people are choosing to maintain their daily routine life. And moving into the city was part of that Israeli narrative that we needed to get out there. And from that I learned how to basically focus on the life in a catastrophe happening. And this is for me also sharing with you, as a photojournalist, like I said, I began as a war photographer. And as I said, did not expect to be doing that at all. What I have here to share with you right now is just to take us back again, that whole experience of psychological warfare. This is me sharing what I've personally been experiencing for many years. I've been exposed to psychological warfare for many years. And for me, it took years to have healing through the landscape, through the land of Israel. And also part of what we're doing these months across wild destinations in North and Central America. This video is called 15 Seconds. And the purpose of this video is to shock the audience, showing how so real this actually is. Okay? I'll never forget a couple of days ago. When was it? When was the last time we spoke, Adi? We spoke a couple of days ago. Oh, yeah. On Sunday we spoke. And I was telling you that literally an hour ago we had a siren going off throughout the center of Israel and Jerusalem. That's 3 million people running for their lives. Even though the rocket was intercepted in midair or whatever, having a siren going off, only that is a whole different experience. And the siren over here, it's a loudspeaker with a woman's voice saying in Hebrew, Tseva Adom, which means color red. This is live documentation that I personally took, or my staffers took. And I put this together into a very dramatic video showing how intense this actually is. And just try to imagine being in a congregation or a synagogue, having a siren going off. You expect to run out of your seats, run through maybe to that one bomb shelter in the back in 15 seconds, or grabbing your children in the last second. That was part of the experience, seeing firsthand. And that's part of what I'm going to try expressing, showing this video. And you can see my transition I've been through by showing this video. So let me just put this video so you can experience this.
מה אתה יכול לספר לי על הפעילות?
שתעשרות כאלה.
ואיך היה היום? אתה יכול לספר מה היה?
בסדר, היה טרפולינות.
וואו!
Okay, so that was a 15-second video. By the way, for me, usually I have to leave the room when I show this video because it triggers back for myself just having like that of a siren. For me, you're sure there's a siren about to go off. When I go to the airports, when I go on a flight, up until today, and I had the stewardess taking the microphone, just turning it on, up until today, it's constantly through your mind. And just getting that across, you tell people, do not take my word on this. You just travel to this region, you talk to people, be amazed to realize how literally every single person, every single community can be expressing and telling you how the 2 seconds before, 2 minutes before, them themselves or their children were standing right at that point where the rocket has exploded, depending on live miracles that does not make sense. We understood that we have the obligation to be covering that story and exposing it out to the world by just being a simple person by exposing this. We have a saying in Aramaic, an ancient Jewish language. It's called Pirsum Anisa. That means exposing the miracle. And we know that when we do that thing, exposing it out to the world is the right thing that has to be done. And showing literally God's finger in this conflict, because no other country in the world will tolerate this. This has been one of the most bombarded cities since World War II. And the fact people are still living in this town, still choosing to move into the city, like we are, by the way, choosing to move that back to the city, is something that gives a whole understanding about the spirit of Israel today and the society, which is very strong. And that's just part of the story. And when I say resilience, I'll show you this next video, which is very powerful. It's a live documentation, being there at the right time, the right place. Oh, not wrong one. Oh, not this one. Here we go. Do you want to try hitting that play again, please? Sorry about that. This is just live documentation, being there at the right time, the right place. No, sorry, this one. Here, this one. Press play. No, this one. Sorry. It usually goes automatically. Okay. So this is just a live documentation. You can turn it a bit lower because I was speaking at the same time. But this is just, summer vacation. You can see the dates all the way back in 2007. This is a playground. This is a kindergarten, and in the playground, you had a direct hit of a rocket that, thank goodness, did not actually explode. Went direct into the ground. I'll literally take that shot of the rockets and the playground right in the background. This did not get any kind of news attention whatsoever. Oh, because no physical damages, no injuries, no harm done, no media reports whatsoever. A direct hit right next to a kindergarten. Then I filmed the names of the kindergartens. This is like a daily routine. The police squad come out, they take out the rockets. That's the name of the kindergarten. Then you have curious children. They come to see what just happened, and they had the routine of following the police squad with the rockets. Many of the kids actually go back to where the rocket exploded and they look for shrapnel, like a marble collection. I've seen that many times. So it just shows like a daily routine, a rocket exploding next to a kindergarten with no media attention because no physical damage actually happened. Again, miraculously. The first protections over this community was specifically kindergartens and schools. So you have this thick concrete on top of the kindergarten. Okay? Those are the first things that were protected. Of course, all this protection is not solving the roots of the problem. Well, check this out. Live documentation.
בחצר, היו חופרים, כן, ממש היו ערוכים, מתכוננים וערוכים לצבע האדום, אבל היום, ברוך השם, פחות בגלל שזה פחת בזמן האחרון. זה פחת, ברוך השם. גם כל המיגונים פה זה חדש, נכון? כן, הנה.
Okay, this is a siren going off. Look at the children in the background, how they know exactly where to run for shelter. Meaning that they have been under rocket fire beforehand. We only got a few seconds left. So the kindergarten teacher, she gets all the children to go to the bomb shelter. She calls it the nanny's room. She's the last one into the bomb shelter. They all sit down calmly. And then they have a countdown. 10, 9, 8. Then they start singing. I'll wait for them to finish singing for a second. What just happened over there? They having countdown. They reach 0. They don't want to have it. They start singing out loud. Why do they start singing out loud? So they want to hear the explosion of the rocket exploding right next to them. So there we have a daily routine of a rocket a siren going off, not knowing where the rocket is going to explode, but having a routine of how to make a game out of it, right? And having a countdown, singing a song together. These kids, by the way, are in the army today. Okay? Have you noticed how the kindergarten teacher, how she remains calm? How can you possibly remain calm having a siren going off, having 15 seconds or less to run for your life? And then you realize that she has no choice but to remain calm, because the way she's going to react, the kids are going to imitate her and react accordingly. But second of all, she's been trained. There's been a lot of training for school teachers and kindergartens, how to remain calm during emergencies. And it's these days actually you have people from around the world are coming to this town, specifically this town, learning firsthand how to deal with emergencies in a community level, but keep on having this kind of resilience and keeping your daily routine life. As crazy that actually sounds. So this video, no physical damages, no harm done, but shows you this routine that no other country in the world will tolerate. The fact that we had it shows how the story goes much more deeper than what it actually seems on the surface. Part or that identity crisis, part of that spiritual war that does not make sense, living in the Gaza border, which literally echoed around the world. And seeing and confronting the Gaza narrative for so many years on college campuses and many other places around the world. And this popularity becoming anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, having no clue what this country is standing for today, having one side of the story getting so much of world attention. There's a lot to get into in terms of the core of the conflict itself, this media information war. This was the front lines of it, literally fighting the front lines of it. And from that, seeing this resilience, focusing on the life during a catastrophe, this is what I learned from the Dead Sea, exposing this to the world, but also having hope at the end of the day, that this is all a part of God's plan overall for everything and for everyone. That's how powerful this actually is. So I'll just end by showing what we've done. So 6 months before the Gaza war, we actually put the second boat to sail the Dead Sea since 1948. We brought people from all around the world to come to experience the Dead Sea. We took them specifically to where you have freshwater springs coming into the Dead Sea. It was just exposed like 2 years beforehand and showing literally how the life is coming in. And people were actually telling this is one of the most exciting experiences they ever had in Israel, all the way to that extent. You can imagine being the only ones on the Dead Sea, the lowest point on earth, to see your family or your friends, the most authentic kind of way, and reaching shores that are only accessible by boats and seeing everything comes alive is a one-of-a-kind experience. This, of course, crashed on October 7th. That is it. We have no boat operation anymore. So we put everything on this, but that is it because we felt that we had to grant access. If over 98% is closed off to the public, that's the first thing that needs to be done as a private person having a nonprofit. Let's deal with creating access, getting people excited about the story. So that's what we did, is creating access. So that went down. And then 3 weeks before the Gaza war, before the war, I was in Washington, D.C., promoting the third year of the Abraham Accords with the Middle East delegation, when I was basically coming from Israel, representing the whole water diplomacy aspect, having water as a bridge, as a way to communicate, building up relationships. This is at the Bahrain embassy. This is the guy actually that signed the Abraham Accords with President Trump and Netanyahu. It was pretty exciting that we're up again. And I was supposed to literally because of this delegation, I was signed to be leading the leadership programming between Bahrain and Israel because of this leadership program. And then it was amazing for me that that transition, a month after October 7th, this is November 7th, I'm walking the exact same quarters in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill, exact same quarters, except this time I'm accompanying families of hostages. So October 7th happened, everything crashed at the Dead Sea. I devoted myself to the families of hostages that needed to get immediately their voice and faces out to the world to get their loved ones freed. And for 6 months, I was flying back and forth with different family members. According to their story, we would allocate different places to actually go. I brought these 2 girls to advocate for their parents' release. As you can see, these are my girls because they have a huge plaque, because I knew how to work with media, getting their story out. You had the entire world media. You had two of the parties were having a memorial over there. And that was the experience of this transition of having this hope on one hand of the Abraham Accords, peace, water, the Dead Sea, and then all of a sudden going to the war situation and using your qualifications to try speaking up and presenting the honest truth or being a voice and face for families. And the biggest hostage situation in modern history of so many countries, by the way, at one time, over 23 countries, hostages from this hostages situation. And up until now, it's breaking up the Israeli society. But a lot to get into that. Very, very heartbreaking, this whole story. For me, at least, being able to self-express myself through articles, I also writing my op-eds to the Jerusalem Post. Every time I flew, I was able to share and to express what I've been experiencing along with the families, and they're telling the families stories. So literally flying, like I said, every other week. And then right before we went on to this journey, this emissary journey, I brought some survivors. Come on. Yeah, please. I brought some survivors to the Dead Sea. And then it really clicked to me, really hit me hard of realizing, because I learned the landscape of the Dead Sea, I know how to get to these locations. And I brought survivors for the first time to these areas, and just seeing what this short visit has done to them, I realized how we have to be continuing to do this, of bringing people to go through a healing aspect, a healing journey in the Dead Sea to basically heal their soul, but also heal this place. And that's basically became part of my experience overall. I'm stuck completely. Do you want to try moving to that slide 34 on the bottom left? Sorry about that. It's just, here we go. I got it? Yeah, I got it. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, so from that, basically going on to this journey, like we said before, like Adi was explaining, for us to be reaching remote Jewish and Christian communities, for us to uplift them, to give them hope, but also resilience, to remind them this is all part of God's plan. Everything is written up there. Everything is part of the biblical prophecies 2,500 years ago, and we have to keep on being strong. There's the evilness is really spreading, with no doubt, as we just experienced in Denver a couple of days ago. Fortunately, it's not going to get any better. Screaming and chanting, these hate speeches eventually goes out to crime and to violence. And this is, unfortunately, this is only the beginning, knowing this from firsthand as well. But at the same time, having this kind of hope, every place that we've been to, we realize this is a healing journey. I started mapping all the healing experiences we've been having and started writing for the leading travel magazines in Israel from all of our experiences. As we said, starting off from Alaska and then going down, and I became basically a wellness expert for the past 10 years. We stayed in over 60 properties, being able to literally how to write about those experiences. And now with this knowledge, with this experience, to go back to Israel, to the Dead Sea specifically, even though we're going to live in Sderot on the Gaza border, for me to be involved again with the Dead Sea, and to report all the different healing aspects happening in this region, I feel that's part of my mission today. And overall, this has become part of our experience. We've been invited, as you heard from Adi, to go back to Alaska, because we were invited to actually to allocate different locations, different retreats, to bring for the first time Israeli soldiers and their spouses, actually, to go through a relationship build-up. So we're very proud of that our work got recognized. We got official letters to be returning and to map out more places. We will be exploring different retreats of Alaska. Actually, we're invited by a Christian organization as well. Have you ever heard about Heal the Troops? It's a project happening in Alaska for U.S. veterans to work on their relationships, and we're invited to bring the first delegation of Israeli soldiers to go through that experience. This is the location that we're invited to go back to, but that's just part of the story. It's building up places and safe spaces for the growing mental health communities in Israel to know where they can actually go through a healing journey. If it's an inner healing or professional healing, there's a lot to go into that, but that's what the motive here, the motive that keeps on going is a aspect of healing. And this is also our personal journey overall. So that's my story overall, going through that contrast back and forth all the time. We are hopeful, and it's what we can do as simple people to try making it a better place, as we say. At least for us to speak up and present firsthand, this is what we can do. And like Adi said, we do this privately. Nobody sent us. We felt this is our obligation. This is our calling in any way it's possible to speak up and presenting and getting people on our side, what's so called. For me, by the way, showing the Dead Sea's landscape and the beautiful photos of the Dead Sea, for me to go to a photo exhibition or to an art gallery, for me to reach out to a very secular audience, to get their attention from all the propaganda people have been exposed to, media and academia, but to get their attention on the enchanted landscape of the land of Israel, and through that to draw them to just hear about Israel. That's for me another way to really speak up and to present to more types of audiences. The Dead Sea for me, that is the core. That's true unity that I found with our people and also with the world nations to really find true hope and resilience overall. So before I forget, I'll have this in the back afterwards. I have here magnets of my Dead Sea photographs with the prophecies of what is happening, and I show this in visuals. So if you put this on your fridge, you won't forget us. Simple as that. And we just asking for $10 for these magnets, just for us to keep on producing these. But from experience, once you put this on your fridge, you won't forget us. And having these live, living biblical prophecies coming true through the Dead Sea story is something which is very exciting to share with people. So God bless. Thank you so much for coming out in such a short notice. Thank you for hearing us. And we could definitely take questions and answers, and we're definitely available. This is why we're here. If there's any other opportunities for us to speak, present, share, engage, we're so happy to do so. Sunday, we're speaking at Pastor Hans in Grand Junction, Jubilee Family Church. Thank you. And we do believe we'll be coming back to Colorado. We made great communication and friendships here in Colorado. We feel very strongly that we should be coming back here as well in the near future. Who knows when? But we felt very strong to be doing so. This is our we're summing up almost 1 month being in Colorado already. We've been having amazing experiences, and looking forward to be engaging with you guys as well. So thank you so much. If you have any questions whatsoever, I'll be very happy to be answering. Please.
So I didn't hear why you said I cannot lick the salt crystal.
I said you can, but I cannot promise you who licked it beforehand.
Oh,
That's the only thing. So go ahead, be my guest. It's
No.
fantastic question. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I have one at home from a local mine. It is the best tasting salt I've ever had. But it's not square like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you take a grain of salt, okay, and you look in a microscope, you see how it's square. But over a period of time, it grows into these beautiful salt diamonds. And every time we went out on the boat, we know exactly where to find them. Usually they're much smaller, so these are very special. We actually send them to labs, different parts around the world, just to show how unique this water treasure actually is. And that was just a way of showing in the most creative way the landscape, the enchanted landscape of the land of Israel, specifically of the Dead Sea, showing out to the way. Most Israelis have not even seen that before. Showing how unique that actually is.
I actually have a question for you. Oh, I'll get you next. Okay. We often, when we plan trips to Israel, we tell people, and we have some people say, you're crazy, why would you go? It's so dangerous, especially since October 7th. Now, this is sort of a rhetorical, but I think it would be good to hear it from your perspective of what do you say to people like that think it's way too dangerous?
Well, I think it's asking those who actually went to visit Israel. I mean, when you hear from people that even though you hear in the media all the time the war going on, we still are in a war, an existential war in terms of what we're up against right now, especially with the world nations turning their backs against Israel, literally. But people actually say they felt the most safest traveling in Israel. Don't take my word on that. Just ask people going to Israel, feeling the most safest when they're traveling in Israel. So that's just the personal experience that I would hear, because I'm born and raised in Israel. A little hard, I'm not that objective. But you actually hear this from people coming to visit. And you know what? Being in Sderot, in that town, I show you the 15-second video. Okay, I hosted thousands of groups in Sderot. 99.9% of these groups never experienced rocket fire, which just shows, by the way, it showed to me, when people come down there to see things with their own eyes, there's something happening. Why do they think for people to feel secure and safe? But those who did experience, and I can only pinpoint a few, did not forget this. Did not forget that their entire lives. Okay, yeah, that's what I could say. Please.
It sounds like you brought children. You have children.
Yeah, they're watching. They should get off their.
Okay.
They should get off the phone.
No,
They're
I'm
watching
just
too much
curious,
videos
how
over
are
there. Seriously,
how
way
are they
way
doing?
over their time.
No, how are your children doing with your traveling and being in
Yeah,
different
it's been
places?
amazing. It's an amazing experience for them. Truly, I mean,
And
wow.
How old
I
are
mean,
they?
we've ending it after 1 year because there've been so many experiences. It's so overwhelming for them that it's very hard to appreciate everything that we're doing all the time. But it's good because we do have a routine. Every place we go, we stay for at least a week. We don't, go every 2 days. No, we stay for a week. We turn that place into our home. So when we have that routine, we also do homeschooling for them as well. But yeah, the amount of the people they met and the experiences they had, they won't forget us. They won't forget us their entire lives. The fact they speak English now to people as well. I always spoke to my kids in English because I could talk like this, no problem. I spoke English to my kids because I wanted them to speak and to engage with Christian congregations, with the international community, because we felt that this is our obligation. And they speak beautifully English now, so you could definitely ask them questions. I mean, they'll be a bit shy if you ask them questions, but yeah, they definitely engage with everybody we go to, and it's been an amazing journey for them. They've been on National Geographic Kids, of just talking about their experiences and journey. So it's been amazing, and for me and for us to be together as a family, experiencing everything has been amazing. Even though it's being 24/7 together, it's amazing how we've all survived. Still, we're still here to tell you about it, but it's been absolutely an amazing experience, truly.
So what it sounds like is that when you go back, including your children, with this healing journey that's happened in your life, you just experienced today that when you hear those sounds, you can hear them and you don't have to leave the room. They're going to go back to help heal their friends and classmates and where you go to a kahal, your community is going to be touched with what you take back with you.
So again, do you want to repeat that? I'm trying to get my head around that. What the kids?
So this journey is, and you did a little bit of it. What I'm hearing you say for your whole family is a healing journey, even though you're giving out information so that we're informed in how we can speak forth the truth in love. So you yourselves, because you're doing this sacrifice, is a blessing you're receiving and the healing you're receiving, so that you can go back with the same and comfort those with the same comfort that you have received. Did that make sense? So I'm hearing your children then will go back to reach people that maybe you couldn't.
Yeah, look, it's going to be a whole different ball game. I mean, I lived in Sderot when I was a single young guy chasing rockets. Moving in back with the family is a whole different story. Yeah. But again, this town has doubled itself in size. They're completely new neighborhoods. We're moving actually to the newer parts of Sderot. So even for me, it'll be a whole different kind of experience, which is very exciting in some way. because especially for what I've been experiencing, it's a nice closure for me personally. Returning to this town, which I did not believe returning to this town with my family is a whole different experience, a whole different ball game. Interesting enough, I even contacted the Resilience Center in Sderot, asking them, are you guys giving any tools for those who are coming back to Sderot, those who are moving into this town, how to react, how to deal with emergency crisis and stuff like that? And yes, they have ways how to teach you, how to train you. So I'll be reporting about that as I go back, going through that training again, coming with the family. And again, it's something that we have taken into consideration. Again, the entire Israel today is under threat, one way or another, literally. But we decided to go back to this town, Sderot, on the borders with Gaza. We felt that we have to be doing something meaningful. This is what we can do. And I know there's a huge need for guiding diplomats and foreign press. This is my background. I know how to speak. I know how to present to them. I know how to be friendly to them. I speak the language. Yeah. So this is my profession. This is what I can be doing, helping out by getting the word out professionally. But at the same time, I'm not going to forget that the healing aspect of it is more physically in the Dead Sea. And we're literally an hour and 15. I already checked exactly the distances. It's an hour and 15 drive to the Dead Sea. And I'm looking forward to be getting, again, understanding what's happening in terms of different retreats and healing projects going on, and for me to be their voice, writing things in English, reporting about it to the world. This is part of what I see myself also being involved with, along with also trying building up bridges with the Abraham Accords. I got lots of things I want to be involved with. It could be very, very overwhelming, but we're excited because we have a lot of things we want to be doing, and we have a lot of ways for self-expression to be doing so. And before I forget, you're always welcome to our town, to our home. We specifically took a larger home with an extra room, so we always have guests, for people to feel comfortable, the same way people have hosted us in their own home. We want to host people. You're more than welcome. Just tell Adi before you're coming. But yes, people are always welcome. And we started that. We literally started that of bringing people down to the Western Negev. Up until today, the whole educational tourism, I personally started that. By getting the word out, people got so affected, they wanted to come see with their own experience. That's how we started bringing groups down to this region. That up until today, you have groups that are coming to visit to hear and see firsthand about this unique story that just gives you strength of understanding what this town today, what this country today is standing for. All the way to that extent. If this town is still being bombed, that's a very good question. Here and there still, even though over a year and a half dealing with Hamas-controlled Gaza. Again, just understand if you guys are not sure yet what we're dealing with, this is a story, okay? Every single school, every single playground, every single children's daycare was a booby trap, was a place for weapons, for equipment, for terrorist activities, all the hospitals, all the mosques. We're dealing with pure evil. Yeah. Pure evil, using their own children to become a human shield, because the second Israel has no choice but to pinpoint that target itself in Gaza. But by doing so, yet the entire world focus on what just happened, the result, not asking the basic question, what just happened 2 seconds beforehand. That's the imagery broadcast around to the world, and seeing the result, what happened here a couple of days ago, literally. So yes, you still have rockets being fired towards this town, towards this region. Just a couple of days ago, rockets were fired towards Ashkelon. This is what we're dealing with. That's why President Trump said they all have to be leaving. That is it. They cannot maintain a society after giving land for peace almost 20 years ago. No, the country in the world ever gave land for peace after winning a war. The fact that we have over 25,000 rockets were fired from that point up until today, not into today, up until the war. And just people just do not get that. So yes, this region is still under rocket fire, but we're hoping they'll be strong enough with all the world pressure right now upon Israel. We have to be strong enough to do what needs to be done to protect their own civilians, not with bomb shelters, not with Iron Dome systems, but to deal with it in Gaza itself. I'll never forget, I have a Euronews broadcast that filmed me. This is back in 2008, following me around as a war photographer, following me how I'm chasing rockets or whatever. The last sentence of that, this is over 200 million people were exposed to that. 2008, I said the last sentence, I said, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when Israel will have to go back into Gaza, dealing with the roots of the problem in Gaza. And unfortunately, today, we have no other choice but actually to do that, all the way from what happened. The worst case, the biggest massacre of Jews in one day ever since the Holocaust, all the way to that extent. So it's pretty serious, but we're hoping that we're strong, and people, we need the support. We need the support because it's affecting every people's minds and hearts throughout the entire world, with what people have been exposed to by just turning on the television news and being educated, and your academia being funded by Qatar, Saudi Arabia, China, you name it, billions of dollars. You see today the result, which is frightening. It really is frightening for this country. I've seen that firsthand as time went by.
Any other
Any
questions? Okay.
I actually have a couple, if this is okay. The first one is basically American news. We are basically, a lot of it's watered down. What can we do to, what channels or whatever can we watch to basically get more of a realistic view of your country?
That's a good question. It's a good question. Well, this is my dad's work for the past over 30 years, exposing the Palestinian school books for all these years. And UNRWA, do you guys know what UNRWA is? It's the only UN organization in the world that keeping refugee camps as they are, with no rehabilitation, without moving on with their lives, keeping them as pawns, as tools to be bashing Israel. Yeah, there's different sites you could go on to get a better understanding of what's going on. But today, the mainstream media are getting the information from Hamas Health Ministry on the numbers, on what's happening these days, literally right now, and having no credentials of understanding what is the truth, what is the source for that. It's a growing challenge. So I could send you different lists of accurate news sites out there, but it's a growing challenge that we have today. People should know the facts, people should know the truth, and people should understand what is it we're standing for today. And we're all today in the same bed, what's so called. Today's Shabbat, we go after the Jews. Tomorrow is Sunday, we're going to go after the Christians. This is what mentioned in Bethlehem, okay? When the Palestinian Authority took over Bethlehem, today you have less than 5% remain today of Christians in Bethlehem. By the way, I grew up south of Bethlehem. We used to drive through Bethlehem to Jerusalem. Once the peace accords came into about, we need to build new roads to go around Bethlehem because it's too dangerous. This is after we've signed the peace accords of the Oslo Accords. A lot to get into, but I think we've been here for quite a while. So those who want more information, we'll be happy to be sending around. Those who actually want I don't have too many of these magnets left. This will be a great souvenir, as I said, with the biblical prophecies along with the imagery. You guys are welcome to be taking this. And like I said, I just asked for $10 just for us to produce more. Simple as that. I have here one more imagery. Oh, it's almost done. Yeah, it's finished.
Noam, would it be okay if we blessed you? I was thinking if you know the Aaronic blessing, that we could sing it in Hebrew and then speak it in English. Those of you that, if not, just kind of mouth it along. You got this. You know it. Yivarechakai Adonai v'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yirchunecha Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.